And so we started here where every great record starts with mixing, because you weren't here yet, but we're going to dive back into that. And I asked a little bit about the process of committing to 2 tracks for the drums and locking it in like that. And what are some things you go through, because we also had a little tangent about the fact that people don't commit these days when making records, and how joyful it is to actually commit when you make a record and decide on sounds and build on a really solid foundation. Tell us how you get to that point.
Well, it is very enjoyable until you do something wrong when you're committing, and then you can't undo it. But I think that
becomes a feature.
That's right. I meant to do that. I think for this record, it was interesting because we started out with, we were tracking at Jack's studio, which we primarily do record on his Studer A800 2-inch 8-track, and then he has another 2-inch 8-track that when we need it, we'll, put a slave reel on there, and
old school stuff.
Yeah, but it wasn't really discussed before the session started how we were recording things, so I just did our kind of standard setup and recorded. Sometimes we get 1 track of drums, sometimes we get 2 tracks of drums, maybe 3, maybe, but
you only got 1. How did he get?
I can't tell you the number of times. I mean, now just so you guys know, and this Josh was my assistant for 4 years, right? So Josh had to put up with me yelling at him, and then now he gets to yell at somebody, but then he didn't. He's just keeping it all to himself. So
I have nobody to yell at.
Yeah, he has
except
no one to
myself,
yell at except himself.
Which I do that a lot.
So yeah, I have done tracks with Jack where there's been 2 tracks of drums, like kick, and then like snare and toms, so I can get a big kick drum. And we're recording. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna need 2 tracks. All right, so now tracks 2 and 3 are bouncing to 8, and the drums are living on 8. So I just make a little mix, we bounce it, and then I erase those 2 tracks, and we put shaker and tambourines and guitars and all kinds of things in every single hole.
And there's no going back.
Yeah, there's no. The great thing about tape, to quote my friend Richard Dodd, is there's no undo, only redo. And for years, Josh and I literally worked without a net. I mean, we worked with no Pro Tools backup, no safety, no anything. And with 2 machines, he runs them at 7.5. So punching in and punching out, Josh will back me up, is like, oh yeah, got to go in a little early.
It's pretty close.
Got to go in a little late and a little early out, and it's it's going so slow. And if you have to make a tape edit, there is no room for error. Period.
Yeah, this record, thankfully, we weren't cutting tape. It was a hybrid. We started off on the 2-inch 8-track, and but the interesting thing was, it wasn't discussed how we were doing it. So I just set up kind of like a standard way that we record things over at Jack's, and then Brendan afterward, we had tracked for the day, got 3 songs done. This was kind of the first couple of days were back in June of last year, and it was just a window in between Jack's tour that he was doing. We came back and just said, hey, let's get the Raconteurs in a room and see what happens. And so they were really quick at coming up with stuff. I mean, the iron was hot for sure. And
can we back up to one thing
you
just said? The standard way we have of doing this at Jack's. Now, you know what that is. You know what that is. But these guys would like to know, these folks would like to know what that is.
Yeah, I guess the standard generally, and Vance kind of helped set that standard when we started, that we were just doing, 1 or 2 tracks of drums, and we try to definitely...
There's a couple things we should say. Jack has a 16-channel Neve desk. So nothing can ever really get more than 16 inputs. We do it. There's an Ampex mixer there still, right? So there's like a little 4-channel Ampex mixer that has
MX-10
one output.
or MX-25 for those of you who are into these
or
things.
MX-10. It's a 10. It's the early one, but same difference. So like we would sometimes take that and put the B3 through it, so it made 1 channel. Like high, low, you know, and it makes one channel. It's great. Or it's stereo, actually, but we
Yeah.
never had enough channels to do that. So, you know, there's maybe 5 or 6 drum channels, and that goes to 1 or 2 tracks. And then there's a bass channel. And most of the time we'd do a DI and a mic.
Yeah.
But we'd put that to 1 channel, right? And then Jack's
there's
guitar.
four buses on it.
Yeah, there's 4 buses. Jack's guitar is 2 channels, 2 mics. We put that to 1 channel. You start running out of buses pretty fast. So then it's just from there on, it's like, well, we're going to figure this
sneak
out.
some foldbacks and
Yeah, you sneak the
and
foldback
rev.
into a bus, or, you know, you had to figure it out. And he'd come in and be like, we would have everything set up, tape machine aligned, and he'd come in and be like, great, okay, cool. I want to play over here, and there's a harp on this session, and they're going to play over here. Like, a harp? Are you like a harp? Harp? Yeah, there's a harp, and there's cello, and, oh yeah, we're recording Tom Jones. That was our normal thing, like, okay.
Yeah, I guess
All
there
right.
wasn't. There's kind of a standard, but not really.
But not really, yeah. So, and the drums were always in one spot, the piano's in one spot, the organ's in one spot. Jack usually is in one spot. So those things we can kind of hit. But then when you go to record, he'll throw curveballs right and left, and African drums come out. No, I want to record in the shed. There's a garage about 50 feet away from the studio that have tie lines. I want to put the amp in the garage. Oh, now I put it in the upholstery shop. And I mean,
50,000 didgeridoos.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we just never knew.
An army.
So standard recording was just, okay, we show up and align the machine, and we plug things in and hope they work, and then whatever it was, we just had to go at 100 miles an hour.
So when you were getting your 2 tracks of drums, was this a couple of mics, or was this, 8 mics?
This session, it was pretty. I mean, it was fairly stripped down, but it was 2 overheads, mic on
Snare
each
top.
of the toms. Yeah, snare top, snare bottom, each of the toms, and a kick drum.
Kick drum, yeah.
And occasionally, I think I'd use some, little trash can mic out front. I can't remember which songs that was for, but this was the first time ever where I kind of had regret not bringing up, since we have 2 great engineers and producers in the room with Jack and Brendan. Brendan's very particular, Jack's very particular, but nobody had discussed, like, hey, should we have 2 tracks of drums, 1 or 2 tracks of drums? Brendan, later that day, was just like, hey, let's flip the phase on the kick drum. It was like, well, we can't. I've just got a stereo set of drums.
You can make it go away.
I can, yeah, put some high pass on there. But he was like, wait, what do you mean we didn't record more drums? You didn't do like 6 tracks of drums? Like, no, like, we've got to put down the bass and the 2 other guitars and the scratch vocal. And
1, 2, 3, 4,
yeah,
5, 6, 7, 8.
It adds up really quickly. But I think ultimately, I think Brendan likes to spend more time sitting, experimenting with stuff, and Jack's more shoot from the hip. Like, he likes to go.
Everything with Jack is about right now. It's all about right now. That's
Yeah, and the
I mean,
feeling.
if anything, the brilliance of Jack versus the brilliance of Brendan, and they're both brilliant, is that they're complete opposites. Jack is just like boom, 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 and Brendan's like, whoa, hold on, let's try this amp, and it's a different whole vibe, but that's their thing, it's the yin and the yang a bit. And
I had never worked with it.
Right.
You had worked with him
Yeah.
before, and I've known Brendan for a long time, but it was interesting to, like, I had to really understand the dynamic between the 2,
Right.
and I
It's a lot
couldn't just
different,
do.
and the dynamic now is a lot different from when I mixed consolers, because that dynamic was, Brendan hadn't had kids yet. There was, he was a completely different person, and Jack too. They both were completely different people, and this time around it was like, it was a love fest. Everybody got along, everybody was great, and it was fantastic. I mean, it was, as far as the record goes, when I'm mixing and the band is in the room, and the band was there every minute of every day, approving and doing the mix every day. they just kind of sat back there and ate this huge thing of snacks. And like our Jack's assistant brought the like $350 worth of snacks.
It's a great snack bowl.
I mean, it was
Right.
unbelievable snack bowl, and it was just like every nut, candy, gummies. There were jelly. There was 5 freaking pounds of Jelly Bellies. 5 pounds. I ate them all. They're all right here, right now, still. But I mean, it was a great process. And the Consolers of the Lonely record, I will be honest with you, was not that way. It was much, much more contentious. There was a lot more interpersonal things happening. But it was awesome.
On a side note, still with the candy bowl, one of my favorite parts, one of my favorite memories of recording this record.
Speaking of candy bowl,
there were plenty of candy in the room. The kids would come out to the studio, say hey to their dad, say hey, but we really knew what they were coming out there for. Where they're like, hey, give everybody a hug. Okay, immediately for the candy bowl. I was like, yeah. Where's the love?
Yeah. One of the things that Josh is bringing up is when you work with Jack, he's in control. Even in the Raconteurs, even in this deal, he's in control. So he's going to kind of want things done the way he wants them done, but he doesn't explicitly say it. So you just kind of guess that's what he wants. And sometimes you're wrong. I've been wrong.
Yeah.
But
Me too.
You just have to guess. This is not off the record, but on Lazaretto, there's a song I love that Josh worked on and mixed called "I Want You to Fight for My Love." I think that's right. Isn't that right?
Yeah, or Fight for My Love.
Fight for Love. Yeah.
I think.
And I made an edit because Jack said, "Yeah, do this and do that and put that edit," and I did it in time, so that it's in time. But Jack didn't want it in time. He wanted it to not be in time. He didn't really explicitly tell me. He just said, "Yeah, you'll know where it is."
But there was that little laugh or something.
The laugh,
that we didn't think was anything.
Yeah, and I cut it off, and he was, I think maybe it's the only time he was ever angry at me. He was a little angry. But the thing is now it's great. It's awesome, and nobody knows what you're missing.
I think you walked outside for a minute.
He did.
And I think you did not long after, and it was like I think you yelled something into the sky and came back in.
Yeah,
I don't know what you yelled to this day.
I've done that a few times. On the very first Dead Weather record, I punched in over a drum fill on accident. It's a long story why. And I just stopped and I told Jack, I said, "I'll be right back." I walked outside and it was like, and then I came in and I said, "Hey, I punched over that drum fill. I blew it. I mean, I totally covered up the wrong fill. It's the wrong chorus." And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, no big deal. We'll just do it again." And of course, it was never as cool as the original one, but nobody knows that but me and him. So,
but he's always understanding and knows that what we're up against, especially before we had any safety net, before we were making any backups. He'd be like, "Okay, well, that part wasn't supposed to be on there, I guess." But there's no sitting and thinking about it. Yeah, it's a feature.